Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 26 of Tactical Crouch, the ultimate competitive Overwatch podcast, I think, or something. The ultimate podcast.
Okay.
Reminds
me of that Denzel Curry song. How did we get there?
I don't know, but let's introduce you to our host really quick. I'm KickedTripod. I basically just know audio. Basically just know audio. But besides that, that's why I'm here. However, we do have our resident immigration expert in Yiska, who
thank you. Yeah, I was right.
Joe, what are you doing?
Nothing.
You're whispering to yourself. We're on a live recording right now. You realize that, right?
Hi.
Like, you understand.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Like, you have to know this. You've done this 26 times now.
It's the norm, you know. I didn't want to sound like a doofus. I was trying to cite some hip hop, you know, trying to be in with the kids.
Sound like some demonic chants. I'm gonna be real with you. Like you're talking to yourself.
Speaking in tongues, baby. That's how I get the predictions.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm Joe Volamel.
It's exactly what it sounds like the whole time. So I have no idea what you're doing over there, Joe. Hey, what are you doing? Like, what?
Sacrificing goats. How's it going?
Why are you trying to cite hip hop? Nobody listens to this podcast and goes, "Wow, that Volamel is relevant."
I don't.
They're not saying that.
No, definitely doesn't. You shouldn't say that. To be fair,
you'd be wrong.
You would be.
So,
but you said ultimate. I was like, oh, there's that Denzel Curry song that I kind of liked, like a month ago.
Are you sure you're not confusing Denzel Washington and Steph Curry?
Nope. I looked it up.
Curryshot. There we go.
Curryshot. There it is. Our guest. He's the strategic coach for Mayhem Academy. Fun fact, fun story. Like, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months ago, Curryshot, we were talking a little bit. We almost started our own podcast. We almost started up a show. Yeah. And we had the conversation about it. It went really well. And then you got famous.
No, I got famous? Wait, I messaged you. Okay. I'm around the same.
No, you're famouser now. But it's good to have you on the show. Congrats on everything going on for you for competitive Overwatch. We're pumped to have you on the show. I know, Joe, you were just with Joe doing a piece. Is that piece out there yet, Joe?
Yeah. Joe, are you there?
Yes, God.
Okay. Is that already out there now?
Yeah, if you go on my YouTube, which should just be YouTube/Volamel, Volamel, that should be the most recently uploaded video, I think. Yeah, should be.
Cool. Awesome.
It's out there. Or it's on Twitter as well. So,
but for real, thanks for being on the show. We're excited to have you. We have a lot of things to talk about, and you're going to be our meta master today.
Oh, let's go.
Our meta
I love
sensei.
this meta.
Yeah.
No, I actually do, but
really awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people hate it, but I love it.
He loves it. All right, well, that's gonna be
like a MOBA.
It's like a MOBA. Wasn't that the initial design premise of, like, when Overwatch first came out? Like, wasn't that kind of like how people would explain it? It's like a MOBA but first person.
Yeah, pretty much. But now, like, what GOATS does is it really slows down the game. Right, Overwatch is a fast-paced game. It slows down the game, and it makes it so you have to think about every ability. You can't just throw it out there, you know. Where that's why in Dive the game was at a very lower level, but now, like with GOATS, like you mess up a bubble, you mess up Matrix, you're screwed, right? So same thing. Like it makes you think about the game a lot more in terms even of pathing. Like, do I retake from this way or this way if they have grav, right? Like different things like this. So I really like it.
I love that you say that, because the proponents of GOATS always talk about its high skill cap and how intense it is, but there's so many people who are kind of under the impression that it's just kind of chaos and not good chaos, but like this bad chaos. And like anyone who actually knows what's going on with GOATS actually doesn't know what's going on, and they're just lying. And, you know, like that's how I feel, but I don't think that that's, you know, true. In the same way, it's like, I don't know astrophysics. They're probably just lying. No one knows that much math. Like, you know, it's kind of the same. You're like, no, John, you just got a degree in marketing and statistics, not aerospace engineering. Yeah.
Well, you look at a team like Vancouver or San Francisco Shock, and then you compare it to London Spitfire right now, right? You can see a clear difference. It's not as simple as just speed on a target and then lol, they die, right? But it's more so like you have to think about everything like, and you can see the clear differences between these two teams. So there's a lot more involved in thinking, and this is why I like it, because when you go back to like a meta like before, yeah, I know it's an FPS, but there should be more than let's say a Widow just doing work. And obviously, there's still more to that than just Widow shooting. It's not as simple as that, but Goats is way more complex. And I know a lot of people will give me shit for saying that, but when you actually understand the game at a high level, the people who do will agree that it is more complex.
What about the argument that whatever meta comes now, there will be transitional properties? So like, players now learn to value each cooldown much more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, even if we, for instance, go back to dive now, don't know why that would happen, but theoretically, do you think these cooldowns would also then be used much more carefully and with more? Yeah.
Yeah, because think about it, Ana just throwing her nade, or you see Ana sleep or throw a nade just randomly, right? What does that tell like your monkey and your DB? Like, well, shit, like he just randomly uses a nade, he can't use it on himself. Or you know, they use amp on they use amp and then you have nano blade or something like this, right? And you can't amp the nano blade and stuff like this. So yeah, it's people will notice this, to look at it, and it will really be like their engage tool. Like, you know, in League, for instance, people use towers, right? They would siege towers, and then if the tower was about to break, people would either fight for it or they wouldn't. But if the tower was so low and they fight for it, the attacking team would take it as an engage tool, because they're like, well, okay, yeah, we'll fight under it. We can kill it in like one hit. So same concept. I'm trying to make a little parallel, but yeah, I hope you guys play League. Otherwise, oof.
I was like, no, I couldn't do it. It's too complicated, too complex. You just speed boost into the gate.
Yeah.
I've played
I
League
had
of
this.
Legends, Chad. Settle down. Okay.
I had this theory before that people really dislike things they don't understand, and I think that is a problem with Goats, which I can empathize with. It's like, the problem also, I think, is I was thinking today, I was going to make a thinking it over episode, but then I fucked up the production, and it's like,
tell me about it.
I think so. The topic is great esports moments, right? And I feel like there are a lot of potentially great moments happen that have too many layers in Goats above them, where you would need an expert to explain it to the layman in order to see the really amazing things. And often, for instance, like I explained with a Defran graph boost, is like, this is an obvious one, but these are not that common in Goats as they were, for instance, in Dive, especially with Tracer or Genji blades or whatever. I feel like also a lot of the amazing factor, like the epic wins, if you want, come from team play, and that is also increasingly hard to see. So I think it's the composition suffers from that, not necessarily from the actual skill that is involved.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Wow, we just went straight into that. We were like, you know, hey, how you doing, Yiska? And Yiska's like, I want to talk about the transitive properties of something else.
I'll be honest with you. Like,
yeah.
I like, for instance, I don't look at content that much, but I look at Yiska's, and it's funny, like, how similar we think about the game, and then how controversial our shit is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice to have somebody else out there do it. So I'm like, just sitting back, like, yeah, I think the same way, but I don't have to take this shit.
I feel this is unbreakable right here. Like, he's living the best life with a fat coach salary, and I'm just getting bombarded on Reddit for like shit pay. Like, come on, man. Like, broken here.
Oh man,
that's just life sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in competitive Overwatch and Overwatch League recently. And the big one, and this happened like right after we turned off last week's episode. Like, we finished recording and all of a sudden, boom, this pops up. I think it might have actually still been, we might have been live with our post-show stream. And it is that Defran has stepped down from Atlanta Reign. Is that the correct term to use, Yiska? And step down. Has he been relieved of his post, or is he stepping down?
I think step down is a fine framing of the situation. Yeah.
So Defran's gone. Personally for me, exceeded my expectations for play. Did not exceed my expectations for how long he stuck with it before he was done. I mean, Joe, what's your take on this here? So Defran, Atlanta Reign had a really solid stage 1. They made it to playoffs, which is great. They squeaked in as far as, between their strength of schedule and just overall play, but they made it, and they did fine.
And I think that's a success for them. I think that's incredibly impressive when you look at, a new team coming into the league and you add those contexts to the story of Atlanta. I think it's really impressive. There's a reason why I had Atlanta as one of my most volatile teams. We know Defran. He goes where his passion allows him to go, right? If he's not into something, he doesn't want to do it, and that's kind of almost admirable. And you kind of have to respect it, because he understands we don't have that much time on this blue rock in space, so I might as well be doing something I like. Yeah. If it's flipping burgers and having a good time, then so be it. He's a simple man. Let him do what he wants. It's all good. It is kind of sad to see him go, because he came into the league and had such a good performance, as many of us thought he would, but kind of exceeded expectations on those different heroes that we haven't seen him play in a decent amount of time. So yeah, it's kind of sad to see him go, but I'm happy for him, because he's off doing things that he wants to do now. And if Overwatch League wasn't necessarily his run of the mill, his wheelhouse, then it is what it is. He's not leaving forever. He's just laterally moving, right? So it's a good thing overall, I think.
Yeah. I'm pretty sad that he's gone, you know what I mean? But imagine he came in with the season and he did really well. So yeah, there's a lot to be proud of.
Definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's see. So there's a a new news that Cocco has left the Dallas Fuel, and I think, if I don't want to put anything in his mouth, but I think this is I'll try to frame it as positively as I can. I think for him, it's a similar situation to how Defran had it, where it's so his tweet reads, the last chapter of the last 3.5 years of my life. It's been an amazing experience. Huge thanks to all my teammates and all the Envy and Fuel fellas who've all been fantastic and helpful in every possible way. Too many to add in a single tweet, but you guys all know who you are. Man, it's hard to read with a mic stand in your way. I think it was interesting that he moved to coach, but I will also say he theoretically probably has the analytical mind towards it. But if that's not your thing, or we don't know, maybe he's getting another job. We don't know yet. But
Envy would be the team to kind of move him around like that. Hastro is the type of guy to not just let a player go off and not have any opportunity. So if there's another way that Cocco would be able to move within the Team Envy kind of umbrella, maybe he's going somewhere else. Maybe he's stepping into another role that him and the management has figured out.
I didn't get to, so we were literally pressing record on the show when the news broke that it got pushed down to the bottom of our show notes and everything, and I started watching the video, and in the video he does say, and I can't quote any of it, but it basically sounds like he chose, he wanted this to be it, and he's planning on moving back to Sweden, which
okay. Maybe throw my idea out the window.
Yeah, so unless Sweden is getting an Overwatch League team at the very least, he's not going back to Owl. Maybe he's doing something else, but I respect that. There's something, your 20s basically are really when you can kind of pick your direction, because once you're in 30s, you can't just be I don't want to be in gaming anymore. I'm gonna go get my degree and whatnot. That's it's.
Do you want me to have a panic attack right now?
Existential.
Yiska. Yeah.
Who do you guys think is gonna replace Defran, by the way? Like, any predictions?
That I'd have to think about a
Can't
little
say.
bit more.
Can't say.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
See, Yiska,
this guy knows.
The guy who
I'm-
already knows. Yeah, he's like, I can't say no. I already know. He's the one leak it.
I don't think it's decided, but I've heard some names.
Oh, okay. Oof. He actually does know.
We're just gonna
Nice.
sit quietly until Yiska divulges
Yeah,
the
yeah.
information.
Just hit him with
doesn't
silent
work.
treatment.
Yeah, we'll just wait.
Now, who the replacement for Cocco is more interesting, but
Mm.
you didn't
Very
ask that,
interesting.
so you
Yeah.
failed your.
Is it more interesting though?
Your league
Is it
test.
more interesting? Like play. So what was his role before? Was it just player coach?
I can. Look,
I
hold on.
can't remember. But I
Probably,
want to
yeah.
say I can't remember if that was not cool Matt.
See, they have quite a few coaches,
Yeah, they
but
have
Atlanta had Defran. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's hard to compare the two. You know, like
Yeah.
Cocco was listed as on Liquipedia as tanks coach.
yeah. So he was a role coach then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
So
I
I don't
think they should get hardest mirror or Onigod or Spectral, whatever his name is now, Spectral
For-
9 or
Oh,
yeah, probably the
for
worst name game.
Atlanta.
So
Yeah.
my
Like-
question is, and it's nothing against role coaches at all. I just like
Mhm.
based on how other teams are kind of set up, I question a lot the value versus investment of a specific role coach, like full-time salaried role
Mhm.
coach. And I question that from just the perspective of and part of me is like, I wonder if there was just some of like, hey, you've done a lot for, it's kind of like when a CEO steps
Mhm.
down and be like, they're stepping into an advisory role, right?
Mhm.
Part of it is to like temper the shock of the community. Part of it is to
Yeah.
keep a strong bond between, the company and the player and the goodwill that's come from that. And like I don't, like part of me wonders if that kind of wasn't the plan all along.
Maybe.
But and that's totally speculation. I don't have any side in information, and I know that role coaches are real things in other esports. So I'm not
Yeah.
saying, but I definitely in Overwatch, from what I've seen, I have not seen a ton of empirical evidence saying role coaches are really valuable, especially at the highest level, and that if you aren't having role coaches, you are doing worse, because obviously Dallas
Mhm.
Fuel, didn't have a stellar stage one, right? It wasn't
bad,
stellar.
but
It's
yeah,
kind of right
not
where we
great.
were, and
It's okay.
like
Yeah.
it's so it's kind of hard to again to use that as like a justification. Though we've seen player coaches do fairly well so far. So I don't know. I maybe I'm just off base and speculating a little too much.
I would say it's even fairly challenging to convince teams of a statistical analyst that works like a fourth of a position. So the fourth of the payment, and then really most of the high value work you could do in that the fourth of the time you would employ a full-time analyst for. It's already very challenging to convince them that this has value. Now, someone on a full salary that just does positional coaching does seem excessive, though I will also say, I think personally from how I've received Hastro, I think he's a real one in that sense that he would probably give a player who had such a legacy for his organization, he would say, okay, I'll give you time to figure it out, like what you want to do.
Mhm.
And he even extended that opportunity to players that weren't really that long in his organization. So yeah, I can definitely see that that this is something that maybe Cocco was given the opportunity to, and just ultimately decided he didn't want to do, and that is fair enough, right? Like, at best, he saved a bunch of his salary, has a lot of the winnings, and just can now decide or do whatever. Because I think he was on a Masters for much of his starting career. I think I remember back in 2016, while they were like on a 58 game win streak, he was also doing a Masters on the side. So
Okay.
yeah, pretty cool situation for him in general. And yeah, as Tripod Splatter is once again giving out, we'll have to bridge over this content section. What's the next
So
topic?
there's a pretty easy transition there.
Okay.
there are some rumors going around. It was reported recently that the Paris Eternals head coach, good friend of the show, Damon, is parting ways from his team. Where he ends up, nobody knows. But it sounds like, or at least it's being reported, that is the case. Your guys' thoughts on that? Does the results from Paris really indicate that the head coach was the issue? Does the punishment meet the crime when it comes to Reddit comments and the amount of vitriol that's being thrown, not only the organization's way, but his way as well?
I think the major offender I can say is the scouting with Paris. I think that was something that can be really put to blame. Not saying any of the players are bad, but in this meta, there are a lot of players that do what they do really well, right? That we're stuck in contenders, whether it be Giganti, 1 Point, even previous, at the time of the scouting happening, which was Eagle Gaming, right? One of the teams that were doing really good versus all the World Cup teams, the national teams. And they were seen to be one of the best teams at GOATS, right? A lot of those players didn't even get tryouts. Like, that's ridiculous. So after winning contenders, I know I said this to you, Joe, too, but that's what contenders is for, discovery and, for that opportunity to get to that higher level. And I really think scouting is one of those issues that Paris should get flack for.
Oh, there's another news, guys.
What's
It's trickling in.
Give it in.
Persia
joins Boston Uprising from Talent Esports. So like a Korean that plays in the Pacific region, as far as I can tell. And I will tell it honest, I've never seen a game of the player. So.
All right, so we need to take a second here. Overwatch League and Overwatch League teams. Wait until we're done with the show, or do it 2 hours before the show, because I'm sick of you breaking in the middle of the show. Okay, it's really starting to piss me off. I just need you to, my God.
Curryshot, have you heard of this guy before?
I think I have, yeah. Sorry, there's somebody at my door.
Is it your dog?
Podcast. No, it was my manager.
Is it your dog?
Okay.
Oh yeah, my dog's knocked. You know what I mean.
We need the room for something.
Just come in and go right there. Yeah, let's go.
I think.
Oh, that was a good one.
I've heard of the team, but he seems like he's a pretty new player. It looks like Liquipedia has him listed just from the beginning of 2018 till now.
They joined. Yeah, they also joined Twitter in December of 2018.
So
and they had 12 following and 19 followers. So very avid social media user, at least Western social media.
I will say I haven't seen a lot of Talent, and I don't remember the name, but Talent has been all right in terms of scouting specifically Korean players. I didn't think their team was all that bad. They had some interesting pieces that I wish would disperse and kind of be picked apart. And I think they have, especially going into Contenders China and Contenders Korea, players have been starting to move around, especially China. There's a lot of Pacific talent that has been kind of called up. So it'll be interesting. I'll have to do some studying on Persia.
If there's one thing I know is that Boston Uprising don't know how to scout players.
I'm real close to writing that article. I think they fell into a beautiful, beautiful accident with fusions. I'm not willing to give them full credit on that.
All right.
Not ready to give full credit on that, but we're getting close. I will say they have some of the best scouts. I will.
Reported, yeah, exactly. And Huck, I will give credit to Huck for that because
yes,
for instance with Fate and that deal where he almost closed that deal with Valiant. Imagine he has an eye for getting players for the lowest price, in a business model, in a business viewpoint.
Yep.
He does really well because he's getting these players for lowest amount of money and then just insane value.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
How much better he is than the second guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not close.
It's actually insane. He's amazing at this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I've said it many times before, and I will say that at the very least, anytime like when you're looking at an Uprising roster, you have to add the intangibilities of what the coaching and system does to those players, because honestly, for me, between what they did in stage 1 with all the changes and now, or not stage 1, season 1, come back in season 2, stage 1, perform really well. I don't think that it was like amazing, but I still think it was outperforming kind of where we had them, you know. So for me, you know, at least level-headed Boston Uprising fans know that I'm a Boston Uprising fan and I like them a lot. And just the really angry ones, anyone who says
Not
like
the hair trigger ones.
yeah, anytime you say something negative, you know, they're just like, rah! Like there's just this really weird, that voice I was talking to Volamel earlier, that that kind of thing. Like I
God,
just
is that you?
yeah, I just
Wait,
so,
Kicked.
yeah.
You're a Boston fan?
I am. Yeah,
okay.
So I'm a newly found, my main team right now is the Shock. I live in San Jose, so I'm right by San Francisco.
Right.
I've visited them and I've seen the players and I've met the coaches and like the actual energy staff, and I'm all in on them. But Boston Uprising have always been my second. In that
We 4-0'd them yesterday.
Alrighty then.
Sorry, who do you coach for again? I can't find them on the Overwatch League website. Where are they? Oh, too funny.
Coming in with that spice.
I know.
Yeah,
Come
right
on,
below.
man. I don't need that curry spice right now.
I mean, they call me Curryshot for a reason, right? You know, what kind of
Jeez.
curry is this?
Cheers.
There you go.
Jeez. You're welcome
drink
back
that.
anytime. I just won't be here. So,
Oh, dude, this.
More?
Wow, this is breaking my brain. What if they actually sold Aim God? Is that could that be? Okay, so
Where
okay.
would he go though?
Yeah,
I mean,
which
because this
team?
guy, because Persia, again, I don't know any idea of what exactly he plays, but on Liquipedia he's listed signature heroes as Zenyatta, Moira, Genji. So it would make a little bit more sense. There's no reason to add another flex support if you have Aim God, right?
Huh.
Where would he go though?
I mean,
What's
Aim God
the
is
defensible?
nuts. Like,
I mean, he
he's
is for
nuts.
sure, but who gets him?
Yeah,
I'm going to say it.
that's interesting. I okay. We don't know if they tried it. Maybe this is just something like it's not bad to have a backup,
No.
and especially not bad to apply pressure to a player,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
in their position. So it
Maybe
doesn't
they're
have to be, but
looking
it
to
could
trade him
be.
at some
It
point.
is my understanding too that that's kind of how Boston runs. Is your kind of your spot is always up. You're constantly proving yourself, and when you play your best, you're fine. But
And then you get sold.
and a big old you letter from Huck. I'm just kidding. No, it doesn't happen.
I
Doesn't
heard
happen.
stuff about
Unlike me, or unlike Yiska, I would never call Huck a cuck.
Yeah,
What?
Yiska, why did you do that?
No, that was
Yiska?
Joe. That
Come
was Joe.
on, man.
Sorry, that
Don't
was
play
Joe.
me like that.
So I think we were talking about this before the show on an interview one time.
Yeah.
Joe accidentally said cuck instead of Huck.
Oof.
And
Happens, man. It's the slip of the tongue.
I mean, that's 50% on Huck for making his name so close. If my name's
that
like,
Freudian?
if my
That's
name's like,
100%
if I
on me,
change
dude.
my name to Lackass and you accidentally call me Jackass, like,
I don't know, man.
Okay,
I don't
let me
know. It's
ask
not
you
a
this,
reach.
Joe.
it's not a reach.
What's up?
Let me ask you this: would
Ask
you enjoy being around Curryshot's dogs?
I'm
Yeah,
just saying, if you ever need a cameraman,
a
saying.
cameraman?
yeah, I'll hold the camera. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Just saying.
I don't know what you're saying.
Just saying, man.
All right.
Oh, man.
Timestamp that.
Write that down. Okay.
All right. Well, this podcast has been completely derailed.
Yeah,
So,
debauchery.
Yeah. But it's been a good one to listen to, that's for sure. Let's talk about stage 2. So stage 2 is just around the corner. We're less than 48 hours away, or we're a little more than 48 hours away from the first
Yep.
matches of stage 2. And for those, so we're gonna give you a little primer. We're gonna get you ready for what to expect in stage 2. Stage 2 is going to be played on patch 1.34, which is the Baptiste patch.
Mm-hmm.
Also, overall, beam damage reduced 20% against armor patch. And damage over time effects no longer mitigated by armor. So those are kind of the big things coming in on top of a ton of hero balancing. I'll just throw it on the open floor. I listed out some that I thought were at least impactful, but
Yes.
I know that they're not all there. Yiska, like, what did you want to talk about here?
There's one huge one that also isn't as talked about in pledge notes, and it's the way how boops work, or rather displacement in the air generally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people might have seen, for instance, the Roadhog ultimate against XQC on Eichenwald, where Roadhog over a ridiculous distance just hovers him in the air against his primal jumps and whatever. And the same is true, by the way, for Lucio Boops. The same is true for Primal Rages. Like, all the Boop characters got a implicit buff unless they are also bad against Boops, like, or really countered by them. Because basically what my understanding of it is previously you were able to move against the direction that you're booped in, and then it would throw you way less distance or way less velocity. And in the same sense, it gave you way more distance, sometimes ridiculous distance, when you were moving with it, right? Where there was a formula, like you could hit each other as Reinhardts out of the park if a Zarya right-click hit at the same time. It was pretty ridiculous how seemingly multiplicative sometimes it worked, right? So they got rid of that seeming randomness and just made it ridiculous across the board. Like,
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny you say this because there was a strategy, not the double boop, but there was something called the triple boop, or like a double boop with whip shot, because there was a mechanic where if you boop and whip shot at the same time, they go across the fucking field. They're just gone. And that's and the strategy was on Route 66 when people were doing the close spawn, right? The hold. So people would always, you'll see them hugging the wall and then just getting launched off the map, and people were wondering what happened to them. But it's literally that mechanic. People were starting to figure out that, well, if we somehow sync these two abilities together, they just go flying. Something in the Overwatch physics is not working. So yeah.
And now it consistently is ridiculous. So
yeah,
not terrible like you described. That wouldn't happen, but still pretty ridiculous.
Instead of fixing it for that one character, let's give it to all of them. Like, that was the reasoning.
Yeah.
I love
Yep.
it.
I love it. What else? Anything else kind of big here you wanted to talk on the micro level before we maybe kind of expand out and kind of discuss what we think the ramifications are going into stage 2 as far as how it affects the meta?
I think the Lucio changes have been pretty interesting. Amp it up speed boost reduced from 70 to 50. Crossfade speed boost reduced from 30 to 20. Wall ride speed buff increased from 20 to 40. So overall, he's moving his team around less, and he gets a minor speed. Well, I think not.
I think
really.
the armor changes.
Yeah, it's a big
Armor
change.
changes as well.
Yeah, the armor changes are big. I don't know if you guys have played Winston like in this meta, but he feels good.
He shreds,
Yeah, and I was recently on Haxel's YouTube because I was playing Ashe too. So I got in a game with 11 players, all Korean, right? They had Seoul and we had Vancouver, and it was then me, right? And then I was playing Ashe, right? And yeah, it just felt really good. Like I felt like I was we didn't end up playing tanks because we realized, like, okay, well, and it was on Gibraltar, we can just play this. Like it felt really good. It didn't feel like I was doing nothing, you know. So yeah, I do like the changes. The armor changes probably a lot. So yeah, but the one thing I don't like is that Ryan is one of my favorite heroes to play. So like with the boop changes, like you said, Yiska, and then the armor changes, like they had to kill that hero, and it's unfortunate.
I love that we're in 2019 and that there's a character that just swings a hammer and puts up a shield, and that's viable in an FPS. I love
Homie needs something else, man. He needs something.
I think it's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
say whatever you want about Overwatch, but like the diversity of ways to play different heroes, second to none.
Yeah. I remember getting into beta very early and thinking, I thought it was a terrible idea to have melee characters in an FPS, but somehow this is the best, like the most polished way I've seen melee characters work in an FPS. Now, of course, the initial impression is very different than what it actually turns out to be, but most of the time at least. But yeah, overall, I mean, Ryan had great periods in Overwatch history, but also pretty rough runs, if we're being honest.
It's either hot or cold. There's really no. I think the GOATS meta within the last couple months has been the biggest. Not the biggest, definitely the biggest resurrection, but the last time that I remember both of them being very relevant. Right, where on some maps Winston's very good, on some maps Ryan's very good. Right, it seems like through the course of history, one of them has been just predominantly the one that is just always picked, and then you don't really see the other.
Yeah. By the way, like, so one of the reasons why a lot of these European contenders teams are like just complaining about the owl meta, right, is because this Winston goats, like you were saying too, like a lot of the owl teams are like starting off with it on defense, right? And you'll just see the team switch to Rhine goats, especially on 2CP, come back with Rhine goats, and then just snowball them like every single time. Because like they don't understand, like floats is actually a counter comp. That's why we played in Europe, like to DPS and stuff like this. We don't just like some of the teams in Europe still do it too, but like it was a counter comp. That's it for DPS. But people are just playing it like default. Yeah, and I understand why, because they just want to swap the Winston. They just have to swap to Rhine, right? So they can keep the other 5 ults, but it doesn't matter. You lose the first fight, you're done.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's why a lot of you'll see like Davin specifically just mouthing off on Twitter, which isn't the right thing to do in my opinion. You don't just complain on Twitter, but like
True. I mean, at some point you got to say, if you've been so long in pole position to be picked up, and then you aren't picked up, and possibly for reasons
His time's coming. His time's coming.
That he himself like fucked up there.
Yeah.
Because for instance, I think I've heard he didn't respond to invitations to tryouts, for instance, from our teams.
Wow. No, there's definitely
like
things
didn't
that he's done to
respond
himself,
or
so.
didn't show up, or
Didn't
just
respond.
didn't respond, didn't show up, or declined.
That's a good distinction to make. It's definitely not didn't show up. He didn't say I want to be then and then didn't show up. That is not what happened. I think declined possibly is the least egregious ones, if I'm wrong. But
okay. I hate to remove Spice from the show.
Yeah.
Man, that would have been a good Reddit clip. But I just wanted to make sure if it's like, it's one thing if he's just like, no, you're the Washington Justice and there's not a world where I want to play with the Justice right now. Or if it's more like, sorry, it's 2019. I don't have email. And I just never, if you email me, I'm not responding.
Send me smoke signals, please. That's my preferred method of
Add me on
communication.
Snapchat for tryouts.
Instagram me.
There are good reasons to turn down a tryout as well.
Sure.
Like, for instance, if we like, by the way, just take a look at Raslin's or Blake's series, like deep dive into the minds of
the esports DM. The esports DM is his name now.
Like he has a clip right now with Logix where Logix talks about the situation where he was put on the spot by some team and DC wanted him too, and then DC decided, and back and forth. Sometimes these things happen, and there's good reasons to just say, okay, I want to focus on these selections. And by doing so, you increase your chances of being picked up of one of those. But of course, shut down that other team. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you feel, Curry? How do you feel about, there's 2 changes that I can't really decide if I think they're going to be impactful at all. The first one is Zenyatta's Orb of Discords getting nerfed a bit, going from 30% to 25%. It feels like a small amount, but is that impactful enough to make her, in your opinion, see less, or make them? Sorry, do any of you ever have an issue where you want to call Zenyatta a her? Like I always have since day one. I've wanted to call Zenyatta a her. I have no idea why. But
I'll be honest. I think it's only you.
It might be only me. You know what? F you, bait. Thanks for being on the show, man. I'm so glad you're here. Do you expect, is this a big enough change where we can see any real differences in overall playtime? Or is this just kind of a minor balancing thing that's just going to make them less extreme?
I think grouped with the other indirect nerfs as well and indirect like other changes, you might see less play in certain comps, but yeah, it's too early to say. But I definitely think like the Baptiste, right? I think like those Orisa comps with him will be pretty strong, especially on 2CP maps. So
I just want to say for a second, Custa calls Zenyatta a her as well, and his brain is so big that he literally can't even play in Overwatch.
True.
So,
you know,
I feel super validated.
Okay, so with Kusta, he was my duo queue for maybe 9 seasons, and I've never heard him say her. And he was like a Zen main back then. He was playing flag support, not even main.
I guess that explains why he doesn't duo with you anymore. You don't listen.
Oh man, no, it's because my brain is too big, you know.
There you go.
Anyways, so the other question I had was about Widowmaker. So we haven't seen Widowmaker in a while, but they made a kind of a really interesting change to her infrared sight, and that is number one, her ultimate dies when she dies. Number two, okay, Joe, am I boring you?
No, I've been.
Am I boring you right now?
I'm trying to pound this coffee down. That's why I'm trying to talk to my deity.
Jeez.
Trying to get some energy here.
Joe, you need Jesus, dude. You need Jesus.
I need something. Whatever deity you got, I need.
Yeah, not coffee.
So, anyways, so they made the change where when she dies, her infrared sight dies, but they did buff it in a way that now you'll actually see the enemy health bars.
Yeah.
In infrared
the whole
sight.
team, I believe, right?
Whole team, I believe.
Yeah.
So with that change, is that big enough to where if we see like that we could see Widowmaker back in competitive again? I mean, that feels like that has to be a pretty great advantage for Widowmakers overall.
Sure.
Even though it doesn't matter when I'm just shooting into a Reinhardt shield anyway. But for competitive players, you know, seeing low health heroes, is this a big change? Is this something that could shift her level of play for Widowmaker?
I don't think this changed enough. I think, like, for instance, if they left her the same, she'd see the same amounts of play. I think it was an interesting change, but I don't think it's like game changing. And it does have an impact, you know, especially if you're playing, you know, dive tanks or something like this, right? Where you can go ahead and do something with that information. But in terms of it being like absolutely game changing, I don't think it will be. But yeah, again, it's too early to say. But I definitely think the other changes were far more impactful, you know?
So while the infrasight changes might not necessarily be the thing that pushes her farther into the game, with, you know, Junkertown being added to the Overwatch League map pool, with the prediction around bunker compositions featuring Baptiste and Orisa being powerful, do you think there is room for maybe a comp like Double Sniper to come back where they can kind of play the flanks and kind of attack the bunker from as many angles as possible?
It could, yeah, it could definitely come back on certain maps. You know, especially a map like Junkertown where it's like basically 60. You can stand 60 meters out, right? Which is like, you know, you can't really play Winston into that because it's too big of a map. You have a 20-meter leap range, right? So you need to jump 3 times to get to where she is, and it's not really plausible, you know. So yeah, I definitely think it can be okay on those maps, but then that's why on those maps too you see goats right now run, because, you know, you get to buy a lot of time. You know, if you can lose every fight and then run out the clock on second point, you know what I mean, if you play the fights correctly. So I think that's pretty strong, right? Imagine just losing every fight and just running down the clock like that. So which is why Eagle Gaming back in the day also did it like this. So
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
Those
other
early
micro thoughts on these changes before we talk about bigger impacts for stage 2?
Oh, I wanted the McCree and Reaper changes to be like very substantial, but the High Noon one was pretty nice. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
Longer
The one where it
period,
ticks a lot faster and does a lot more damage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Reaper change with the Shadow Step, they made it so you can use it while falling.
I think
Interesting.
I think that's still on PTR.
Oh, is it on PTR? Oh, yeah, you're right.
I think that's with the bouncing
PTR.
nature.
Yeah, you're right. It is on PTR. Sorry, like, so if you don't know, I like Reaper is my favorite thing. You know what I mean? So like, I'm really excited about that hero. And
Dude,
every
I
time they buff him.
What? Okay, so, okay. At this point, okay, that's strike 3, dude.
Okay.
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 Stop
okay.
this podcast.
Okay.
1, he just told us earlier that he was in a solo queue game with 11 Koreans, and he was the one picking Ash, probably with Pine in his game, probably with
Yeah. Hey, we won, and I popped off. You know.
Second one is, wait, what did you just say?
Reaper.
What was
Reaper.
Oh yeah, Reaper is your favorite hero. Strike 2. Now look at his headset. Look at his headset. He still has the protective things on
Yeah,
him.
take the protective thing off the right ear cut, man.
Wait, this?
But no, right
here.
No.
On the ear, other side.
It's unreal.
There
Okay.
it is.
I'm not gonna lie. This is not my headset.
Okay, whoever owns this, if you lose to Fusion Uni, you have to convince the person that you can peel those off and send a video of it to it so we can play it in front of the next podcast.
I'd have to send that to management. Because
We're gonna have to post that through PR.
they'll see a video of me sending. They're like, "Well, what is this? You know, why are you sending me a picture like or a video of me?"
Ben Spoon slides in
Wait,
your
what you
DMs.
got
What
against
is this?
So, Yiska. So,
Yes.
in our first game of the season, we pulled out Reaper, right? All
Yeah.
the players I've coached before, both in Europe and North America, message me and they're like, "Reaper, huh?" Like that's a Curryshot. Because I always try to find ways where it'll work.
Reaper's
And it
OP,
did work.
man.
I mean, we're still first in our groups, you know. So
Yeah,
there you
reason
go.
for it.
It's true.
He lives by the Beyblade.
Reaper is not the reason, but like I like to think it is.
Yeah, it's confirmation bias. I get it. So let's talk about. Let's bring this back to Overwatch League for a second.
Sure.
For any of these changes, if this goes to any of you three guys, do these changes make it so that you think that there's teams that can really improve their record or their overall play because of these changes? Does that make
Yes.
sense? Who, Joe? Who?
I think I'm very hesitant to say London. I want to. I have to see, and it's beautiful that they play pretty late in the week, so I can actually make a pretty. I feel like I'll have a good enough read on what teams are interested in doing.
Sure.
So that because in stage 1, I came out and said that I thought London was going to adapt very slowly to Ghosts. Lo and behold, they did. If the meta is so much about bunker comp, which they have history in playing, they could look a little bit weaker than expected. I think shifting the gears for London seems to be something they struggle with. Maybe they've identified that problem and can actually do so quicker in stage 2. My mind kind of goes to Chengdu again.
Oh yeah.
Ameng has a history of playing Orisa. That's the other main tank that he played pretty okay, right? In Contenders China, he was a Diva Hog Orisa DPS player. Rotated the ball when it came out and was okay at it. Apparently just became some sort of godlike character on the hero in the meantime. But I think activating their DPS players is going to be something really important for them. Plus, this doesn't stray too far away from their strategy. So they can still play the meta if it is going to be bunker, and they can play their own variant as well. Shock gets a nod, NYXL gets a nod. If DPS is really going to come back into the meta, they have, some of the best DPS lineups in the league, so they definitely get the shout from me.
Yeah, and the reason, I would say, some of the Korean teams, obviously New York, Excelsior, and Vancouver are still at the top, right? But the reason some of London, for instance, well, this is all speculation, right? But I've heard communication with some of the Korean teams, just because I've had players who've tried out and stuff, and they want me to look at either VOD, not for London, but who want me to look at the VODs to see what they were like and how they were playing, etc. And I hear the comms and it's just screaming targets, right? And that could have worked maybe in a previous meta, right? But in the current meta with goats, you need to call cooldowns, like I said prior, right? You need to call when they use bubble. Otherwise, there's that window you won't recognize and see that window of when you need to go in, that ebb and flow of going like a wave and coming back, right? So you don't do anything basically, and you just lose and get your shit pushed in, right? So basically, in the next meta, why I'm saying some of these teams will do better is because the communication variant kind of shifts, the way it works, the structure
lends
shifts.
itself to the typical calling structure to kind of support what Curryshot's saying. If you go on Twitter and you look at Soul's Twitter, they have a small soundbite from when they won against NYXL in the playoffs, and it is just a massive shouting fest, just echoing targets, screaming. Jaehong is kind of known for being this loud, I guess would be the way you could phrase it. He's very loud in comms from what I know. And yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not necessarily being charitable to your point, but it sounds like you're saying the calling structure that some Korean teams have lends itself to not goats, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh.
If you hear if you hear a European team coming, obviously Paris didn't do that well, but for instance, if you hear Giganti 1 point prior, in the last season, even Hurricane, right? Samsung even. It's not just screaming. It's some of these teams have an energy level of 1, and they're just talking to each other. You know what I mean?
That's actually.
And then
you mentioned that on the podcast that we did, and it brings me back to a really old CS clip. I actually don't remember if it was 1.6 or CS:GO, but I think it was Fnatic or Ninjas in Pajamas, and it was just a small listen in on one of their Dust 2 retakes, and it was mostly silent. And oh, there's a guy here, he has this gun. Okay, we're gonna go 3, 2, 1. Okay, we did it. Round over. No talking. And this was the time where I was still pretty heavily into League, and I remember listening to those comms, and it was just target. Okay, next target. And it was that echoing mentality, and the shift between that was massive, where it's why are they so quiet, and why are these guys just why is there a difference?
Yeah.
And it almost kind of seems, again, maybe a little bit cultural, maybe regional. I don't know. Seems interesting.
Maybe it could be, yeah. But I mean, I've also seen them in a DPS meta, and
sure,
it is a bit different. But again, when you're just talking to each other very calm, right, and collected, you notice every window that you can take, and that's why it seems like a completely different game if you do see a Giganti played, or even now the way we play too, why a lot of teams are struggling is because they realize even with our team we're just talking to each other. You know what I mean? And that sounds like a lol, just talk forehead, but I mean it's just not screaming and then just realizing when to go in.
Clicking heads,
yeah. That's why we notice every window that we have to take, and when that was one of the first things that I looked at when I joined Mayhem, and we fixed that rather quickly, and now we can just focus on strategy, and it's working really well for us. So
nice.
Nice.
Well, let's move forward a little bit, because we've got matches coming up in less than 53 hours. I don't know how many hours. Whatever. It's soon, guys.
Nice. Yeah, okay.
2 days.
I learned my lesson. We're passing it over to John.
We're two days away, and there are some pretty, in my opinion, some pretty important matches coming up as far as kind of what to expect. And from teams, given the quote unquote new meta that we might be seeing, some of the new changes we're hearing, Yiska, we were talking before, we're hearing of sounds like still goats is still pretty prevalent, but it sounds like there's some other things going on.
Yeah, apparently there's some triple DPS shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
So, okay. It's pretty normal, I think, for... I wrote an article on Meta recently, where Meta is not the, instantaneous, actualization of the perfect comp that could be played. One, the fact that we're mostly only playing one comp already should give you an idea that this is not a perfected meta. It's more like one that utilizes the time allotted to you very well. It's also sort of a social thing almost, where it's like, okay, so who impressed with that comp? Who beats it? How do they like it? And that also determines...
Who beats it and how do they like it? Was that intentional? Yeah. Was that intentional?
Wow.
Bring in the dogs.
That was like a neat bike trap. Just
normally,
normally
Yiska is the one that interrupts my very coherent thought.
True.
I got to get my one in.
True.
Okay. So who beats it and how do they like it, Yiska? You were saying.
My coaching career will be defined by my dogs.
That is a fine reason to be defined by, though.
All right.
Okay,
we need help, chat. We need help. So
there's Jesus again.
Yeah.
There it is. Jesus apparently sounds like an imp.
Okay. Found the point again. Oh man, this gets harder, by the way, as the older you get. You will realize in a couple of years.
No,
does it get harder as you go? Is that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it gets harder.
All right. Okay.
You got to take notes and stuff. Like I legitimately have Post-its here just to get
r/whoosh. I guess.
Oh my god, you actually did that again?
He did it again, and you just
my god.
Oh man.
Wow. Okay.
If you just give me an opening.
That's also true.
Ooh,
so
all right.
The thing is, so there is some, of course, the meta innovation, if there will be one, will be delayed. Just by, it's even possible that because the stage comes so quickly and we don't have contenders, we have no other innovator in the space, and apparently also the lower level teams aren't trying it because the opportunity cost for the best GOATS teams for it to remain GOATS is like, why would you innovate? There's no reason, right? So as long as there's no innovator to come up with these comps, it will remain as such. And to develop these comps, it could very well be the case that you need a certain minimum amount of synergy in a comp until it reveals itself as the GOATS killer, right? But will you invest that time? Will you have the faith in that tomfoolery of trying to, counter it when you don't really know that there's light at the end of the tunnel? And then, I mean, if you're Valiant, how do you do that? Like you need wins now, right? Or you're out of the players for sure. So for some teams, it's almost too late. For some teams that are like, let's say, for instance, a Houston comes to mind. Even though that I think Houston players themselves or coaches would say that's unfair because they could have easily been 5-2 this stage, but just winning that two. But then again, their stage also gets a lot harder. So teams like that should probably try to find something that suits them better and then innovate that way. Now, the problem is when they innovate and find that comp, how long really is their advantage? Maybe week 3, week 4, until the high skill teams learn to copy, learn to innovate, learn to the nuances of the comp better than the innovator did in the first place. The ideal situation, actually, if you want to be innovative, is be Chengdu, meaning nobody else jumps on your train.
Yep.
And you can just play your stuff. It's very hard to practice against you because nobody plays your comp at the level. And it's very hard. It's very tricky how meta evolves. There's so many. It's like a multifaceted issue. It's not about balance patches. It is also about what do the patch notes say. because that signals something and kicks off like an avalanche of like thought patterns. Okay, what Reaper was buffed? Look at this guy. He's already smitten with like Reaper going on, right? Like that now, people try to think, okay, so is this now the case where Reaper could be viable? Maybe he could have been viable already in this meta, but nobody gave him a shot because of like complacency or just security of the comp or risk reward management and whatever. So I think yes, we will see mostly goats at the start, maybe some innovation for some teams, but yes, we're seeing also some triple DPS in those scrims so far.
Yeah. And just to add to what Yiska is saying too, and why it's like you see these teams kind of not changing anything, is because let's say they try to innovate in that. You remember, you have like a week time in between the matches. The time for innovation is actually off season. Really, it is to think about and change things. Because in that week prior to the match, let's say you practice something that you're trying to like change everything, right? In the week going to your match, you didn't practice at all. Because let's say you don't find something that works, or it doesn't work as well, you wasted that entire week. You know what I mean? So like it's very difficult to change and innovate in that week span, and it's why like you might see a meta like shift gradually, because over time also that one team will find something that works well, like Yiska said, and then it's just gone. Why like they'll just copy it basically. But it might take a while for them to, let's say, get better if like they've been doing it for a while, but still like the risk reward is like it's not something that's great,
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So I singled out 3 matches from this week that I thought were going to be pretty indicative, I think, of the stage results for certain teams. And believe it or not, Boston, both week 1 matches are a really big deal. It's Boston versus the Atlanta Reign, and then Boston versus the Toronto Defiant. And I don't know about you, Yiska, Joe, Curry, but for me, I don't see a world where Boston doesn't do well in either of these 2 matches and then has a good rest of the stage. Like it kind of feels like these should be pretty good bellwether matches for them for the stage.
So you're saying if they do well, they should be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am saying that.
Are you saying this as a Boston fan, or are you saying that from an analytical perspective?
Half and half.
Okay.
So, but it also, especially the Atlanta Reign one, is obviously going to be a big deal too for Atlanta without Defran, right? So they're going to be going at it from Defran. Is how far do they fall without Defran in their roster?
Yep.
I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts? Do you guys think that? Do you think that we see a Boston team that can squeak into the playoffs again in stage 2?
It feels like I'm gonna have to wait until everybody just finishes their roster moves, because like we've seen already on the show, we've had 1 breaking story, 2 before the show, and we have 2 days before the stage actually starts. So it's like, I don't know if I'm ready to give hard predictions, but as of right now, I don't think Boston does too terrible. I think they should be okay. I think Color Hex probably comes online if we're going to see a lot more DPS. I think he got a lot better towards the end of the season, or the end of the stage, I should say. I think these will be a lot closer than what people expect, maybe.
Plot twist, I'm Atlanta's new hit scan, I'm Lock and Reaper. It's happening.
All right, so Atlanta's not making the playoffs next. Jeez.
I would say, Tripod, I think you're completely right. Like, if you just look at the schedule from Boston, that week is killer for them. So, okay, next off, Hangzhou. If it's good that they meet Hangzhou this early, because we can still expect them to play goats. Though I will say, that's one of those teams that should innovate.
If there's going to be a bunker comp that allows for more DPS players, Hangzhou's got quite a few.
That's a very good point, by the way. That is a really good point. They're meeting them this early. That's huge for them, actually.
And then London in week 3 and Titans, like oof. Like I think London is also coming. Then there is a big break because they don't travel to Dallas in week 4. And then they got Gladiators as one of those matches. And then granted, Washington Justice. Okay, so I think
I
really
like how you just
realistic.
said granted, just a granted Washington justice.
And there's
Like,
Washington.
It's not even a
Oof.
full sentence. It's just like, and granted Washington justice.
One free win is like
Yeah.
synonymous, right? So, yeah, I think at this point, like, okay, so let's count. They should win Spark probably. That's one win.
Justice.
And then Justice. And you need 4 wins in order to make it to the stage playoffs, as we've seen, very likely. There's still 2 wins that come from somewhere, right? Like, you probably don't upset Vancouver. Gladiators will be hard. London will be hard.
It's gonna be hard.
And then, yeah, your best chances is Atlanta Reign and Toronto, yeah.
I'd switch Toronto,
What do you
London,
know?
but
This
I don't
old
know.
guy has a brain. I don't know.
Yeah,
Shut up.
I think
YouTube.
I think Boston actually might have trouble versus Toronto potentially.
Mhm. I think so.
Like I think
That
I think
seems
they have
like the really tough one. Yeah.
yeah, that's probably the toughest
Non
match of these 3 that I'm seeing right
yeah,
now.
not Titans based matchup. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, so there's another interesting one in Wink 1, and that's the Gladiators versus the Dynasty. Both teams that had high expectations in stage 1. Like Dynasty, man, like, I mean, they had a really interesting one, right? They kind of eke into playoffs. They pretty handily beat NYXL. I don't care what anyone says. It was
Big upset,
not,
yeah.
and it was not really that close.
Oh, that was a pretty convincing, like,
Yeah,
we're going
it
to play
was-
your style and
It
beat
was a
you at it.
it wasn't one-sided, but it was convincing. It was like, oh man, that 1 or 2 fights I could have gone the other way. That was not NYXL versus Dynasty, and then they play Vancouver, and then you're just like, oh, that was the Dynasty that we saw in stage 1.
Mhm.
So Dynasty, I think for me, there's still some question marks about
Oh yeah.
how good of a team they really are.
Mhm.
And Gladiators kind of the same way. Again, they miss playoffs. They don't have a super strong start, but they
peak
don't.
late.
Yeah, they peak late. They didn't look bad in a lot of ways. Like it looked like a pretty coherent stage to me. D-Pay has told us. He told us on Twitter, then he told us on the episode or on the show. He's just like, like temper the expectations a little bit. Kind of alluding that goats might be a little bit harder for this team.
Mhm.
We're moving away now, presumably, or there's at least other ways outside of goats where you can compete and potentially
Right.
innovate.
Yeah.
Feels good to say that, by the way. So, Joe, what do you take here from Dynasty versus Gladiators? Is this as important of a match as I seem to think it is, or
No, I do. I think you're Johnny on the spot, as Semler says, with how both of these teams have peaked late. Dynasty has, made changes to their roster. They've added Illicit and Highly from Contenders Korea. Will they be featured this stage? Hard to say. Are they going to be featured in this match? I would assume not. But again, rosters make moves months in advance, then they get announced, and this could be much farther along than what we know publicly. So maybe they will be in the arena for their match against Gladiators. Yeah, I think this one's going to be a good litmus test of where these teams are at. They seem to be at the end of the stage at a similar level, I think. Man, Michelle definitely has impressed, from a lackluster flex tank in China to being, top performer on Diva in terms of Winston's lab rating. Massive Somber performances. Just this kid has a brain on him, and he's flexible. If you could make a lab, character, that would be somebody who I'd kind of craft. Matching against the Gladiators that looks good, but are they going to look good in this meta? I don't know. I think this is going to be a litmus test. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. We'll have to see exactly what comes from this.
fair enough? All right, before we close off for the episode, I do want you all to put your money where your mouth is. So give me your money, and then let's make some predictions here. So, Curry, I'm going to give you the first one here. Team who secures the first seed into the playoffs in stage 2.
First seed that secures it. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give it to Shock.
Shock. All right.
Yeah.
I like it. Joe, what about you, man?
Team who secures first seed in stage 2.
He's gonna say.
I'll
Vancouver.
I'll go Vancouver.
Yep.
I think they have the pieces. I do think that I don't think stage 1 was a fluke. I don't know how you'd even kind of bring that up. I don't know how that's even a fluke. I'm just trying to think of the random YouTuber Redditor argument, like fanboy triggering as it might seem. I don't know. I think they're quite good. I don't see them changing.
We don't
all
know
that
if
much.
Bumper's quite Overwatch League ready though.
I will say if it is a big shift away, this will be another crucible for Bumper. Can he shift? Can the team adapt around? Can they shift those resources? I think they can.
Fair enough.
But we'll have to see. So yeah, my shouts for Vancouver.
All right, Yiska, what about you?
I tried to big brain this, but apparently the Overwatch League schedule is actually reasonable because last stage there were of course teams that didn't have matches in game stage 5, so week 5, so they could have already, like when you have the games earlier, you qualify earlier. And if Vancouver, for instance, would have had their matches already pretty early, no, Vancouver actually has 2 matches in week 5, so they're probably not the team. I think Shock, because Shock also has 2 matches. Okay, then it's New York.
Oh yeah. True.
So I've been split between.
Hold the phone. What is this stage from New York? What the? Okay, they have Fusion, then they have Shanghai, then they have Washington,
Florida.
Close your ears. Then they have Florida Mayhem. Then they have Philadelphia again. Then they have Atlanta and Atlanta again.
Oh, they play Atlanta back to back.
How did you schedule this?
That's rough.
Nathan?
Yeah.
I know you did the hand scheduling yourself.
Yiska. It's funny you told me to close my ears because I'm not too I don't do too well to power rankings myself, but I always like read them just to see what's up,
Yeah.
And I had I remember I was in the office and I was like looking at some power rankings like before scrims, and management was right behind me and like wondering where Mayhem was. So I was scrolling down. I don't know who made it, but then I went to the last one, like the top 10, like or whatever, the bottom 10 or whatever, and then I see University of Waterloo. Mayhem was like not even on the list.
That was
like,
benchmark.
Yeah, and then as soon as like I turn, I'm like, we're not like Mayhem's not on the list. I was like, oh no.
That is actually I think the funniest thing I've ever heard of my entire
I
life.
thought I was going to like lose my job right there and then, like in my even the academy people were like, like my players were like, okay.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Awkward pause.
Oh man. Well, nobody here's what I have to say anyway, but I actually did choose NYXL for my number one squad for
weird way to pronounce
stage
Boston.
2. Yeah, Boston Uprising. I do have them unranked right in front of University of Waterloo, by the way. So
that's good.
Maybe you can apply for a job with them.
Maybe University of Waterloo is that good. I don't know.
Yeah. If you have to,
if you want me to apply for a job,
if you have to ask the question, I don't know. Let's. Who's the team that finishes dead last in stage 2? Yiska. Yep. Audio podcast. Dead air is great.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll interchain while. Wait. Oh yeah, it starts with F. Okay.
Spit it out.
Yeah,
that's
that's unfortunately a pretty competitive stage. It's the Florida Mayhem.
Oof.
All right.
Let me
just like
feels
your
tough.
career half alive on the ground, and then you get just like choke slam. Like,
Hey, I'm on academy. We're doing well.
Exactly.
Hopefully, Florida Mayhem, like the main team, also picks it up this stage.
Who do you have?
Maybe
Number
a
20,
promotions and all
Curry.
that.
Number 20. Who's last in stage 2 in
Last.
Overwatch League?
I mean, I'm gonna have to give it to the obvious Washington.
The
I think,
obvious Washington.
Yeah, I think in terms of game knowledge, they've looked really weak. Where some of the team doesn't even like work together. They're doing their own thing. Maybe they're taking like a 3v2 on this side of the map. I don't know. It's just very random. It's
no love having Arc coming in helping out on the.
I don't think that's going to change much.
Fair enough.
I think Arc is a good player. I just think they have bigger problems. Like they need to fix how they think about the game and how they work together as a team.
Fair enough.
I understand now they have 2 New York Excelsior members and they work together as a team, but you have to still integrate the other 4 members, right? So,
Cool. Joe, what
You
about
know, in head-to-head?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. In head-to-head between Washington Justice and Florida Mayhem. Also, Washington Justice does play LA Valiant this stage. So.
ooh, we forgot about Valiant. Okay, but I think they'll
So did
fix their
Overwatch League. Yeah.
Hey, but
And there goes any of our potential Valiant interviews on this podcast.
rip. Oh well.
You hate to see it.
Oh, guess what? Another breaking.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Who's that?
What happened?
Number 1 fanboy. Coach for Justice. I don't even know how to say the name. Obasil?
Yeah.
Ooh, Obasil
Gone.
has been let go. Ooh.
Obasil you later.
All right, boys, that's the show.
Oh my god! Oh my god, where's this? Wait.
Anybody got any Tide Pods?
Man, you're really shortening your guest list now. There we go, Yiska.
All right.
Can still see you.
Now everybody now everybody is wondering what kind of blackmail I have on Yiska and Joe to get them to come onto the show every week.
And Fisher has also been let go. All right.
Oh, from
Well-
Envy.
Fisher from Envy.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, different Fisher. Jeez. Get everybody. Yeah, not the same Fisher. Like, not Fisher. Fisher.
Yeah. Fisher.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. I should have.
yeah.
Wow.
yeah. I'm trying to act surprised because obviously they're contenders team and all of these.
Yeah,
all
of course.
like,
Hey.
so.
Yeah.
Joe, who did you have for last place? Did you say?
No, not yet. But
We'll take your damn time.
I was just, there's breaking news. I don't want to interrupt. So week 2, my team that I have for dead last plays Vancouver. Week 3, they play Philadelphia. They also play Shanghai. Week 3. Week 4, traveling to Dallas. They play Seoul. They also play Dallas. Week 5, they play Guangzhou. Week 5 again, they play London. That's not a good schedule. If you want to do well, I'm gonna say Houston, dead last.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
That's not an easy schedule.
The one thing they have going for them is that they don't have a match in week 1, so they could potentially have more time to figure something out, right?
True. Yeah,
That is a good show.
Get that extra week.
yeah, it's much
It's
better.
important.
It's much better than last season. I don't know if you guys agree, but I mean, like, there's a clear, I guess, bracket in terms of which teams are better than others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, but not so true for the teams at the bottom because you'll see them beating each other, and it's like
Yeah, they
just
just
a
kinda
toss up. And even like you'll see teams like Toronto, I'm sure surprised a lot of people, and even Atlanta. So it's good. Like everybody thought the expansion teams would be like down here, but then we got even our teams were, like
Down there.
the previous, yeah.
And so, to be fair to those rankings that had a lot of, and as far as power rankings goes, this podcast had the most expansion teams in the top 10 out of like really any other sources that I could find. Like, we tried to be as unbiased as we could based on how they performed outside of Overwatch League, 'cause obviously that's all we had really, known for most of the players. But there's this always this idea of I don't know, therefore it can't be better than ... And man, you just lazy. You just
Watch some
lazy.
Contenders games.
You just
bums.
lazy, you Houston Outlaws only fan / analyst with I don't know, your own podcast that you shoot on your denim couch.
I'm sure
with your mom.
denim couch. Okay, now we're getting to an absurdity that I don't have to jump in and defend the Raven podcast. I will say you do kind of spark a good point that, again, Houston's not going to be able to make any changes anytime soon in terms of the roster because of the logistics of the company. As we're seeing, we've had 5 changes in the last 2 hours in terms of just league movement, either laterally or just shedding weight.
Yep.
Houston's not going to be able to make much changes, and I don't think they're going to be letting people go anytime soon. So it's not looking any better in terms of just gaining new talent.
It's just not. It's
not looking good for them, man. I don't want to just dogpile on them. Not a good stage. The week helps, I will say. That is where they can definitely outperform my expectations. Schedule's tough. Shift in the metagame. Didn't look great stage 1. The record probably is a lot more nice than I think it actually seems.
It's a lot more nice. That's the number 1 Overwatch, competitive Overwatch writer I think we have in Volamel is.
That's why I'm a writer and not a speaker. You see what I'm saying?
It's not more nice.
I can Google synonyms before I actually speak or write.
There's actually websites that are full on AI that you can put an article into and it'll rewrite it without anything that'll pick up on plagiarism websites. It's impressive.
Might have to no, not gonna say
That's
it.
true. So
Continue.
I'm just gonna start taking Benchmob and Yiska and Volamel articles and putting them in there, putting them on my own website.
Hey, what you gotta do, man?
That's what I'm gonna do.
That already happens.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I like those. All right, last one. Last one. Most improved from stage 1. Curry, I'll give you this one first again.
We're talking team, right?
Yeah, we're
Not
talking
player.
team. Which team you think
Okay.
is going to go from the position that they finished last season, the most improved to, or last stage, to where they might end up at the end of stage 2?
That's a tough one. Honestly, this is going to sound really weird, but I'm not too sure on budget problems or anything like this. But I'm gonna say Valiant because Valiant went 0-7. I'm sure they'll do a little bit better next time around. You know what I mean? Yeah, they just need to win one game and they'll
be the most improved.
I think.
Well, so. The bar is pretty low, so I think they have a lot to work on, and hopefully, they fix what they need to. But I even think I should have probably said Mayhem, but I was gonna say definitely Valiant. I think have a lot to learn. Yeah,
fair. Yiska, what about you?
They have a rough stage. The only teams Washington Justice and then Chengdu Hunters.
okay.
I think they don't have that many opportunities to of course, if you can beat any of the other teams, which are Shock, Atlanta Reign, Gladiators, they play Dallas Fuel, they play Seoul Dynasty, right? That if you can get a win there, yes, that would definitely count as much improved.
Mm-hmm.
I say
with the
London.
Reign losing Defran. Oh, London. Oh yeah, true. Oh yeah, actually that's a really good one.
I'm so weird about London. I'm very gun shy about putting them forward. Just in the sake of parity, I'll say I said Chengdu before was going to do better. Are they going to do them? Are they? I'm going to
say yes. Chengdu is going to be the most improved. Just before you even go there, because number one, I didn't ask you. Number two,
True.
just kidding. But here's Chengdu's stage, right? It's really interesting. So Chengdu goes Paris Eternal,
Okay.
Washington Justice,
Okay.
into Shanghai Dragons, into LA Gladiators. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
And then on the road in Dallas, they play London Spitfire. And then they come back and play the LA Valiant.
Yeah, that's not a hard stage, but neither is London. London has Florida, Atlanta, Philly, okay, Boston, okay, Paris, Chengdu, and then they finish out with Houston. That's also not a hard stage.
It's not, you're right. It's not a hard stage. But they were 3 and 4. They were honestly one map difference between being 13th, quote unquote, technically, and being 11th.
Yes. I think there's a possibility that they might even be among the teams that qualify the first up. Like, I think this is a 5-2 stage for London. 5-2 or even 6-1.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference there is Chengdu had an obviously worse map record overall. All right. Hey, good news, everybody. Windows did an antivirus scan during the stream, and we don't have any viruses.
Hey, congratulations. Round of applause.
The only virus here is Yiska's attitude at this point.
Or your puns.
No, it's kind of cost of entry at this point. Yeah. So, all right, cool. We got to get out of here. It's been a fun show. It's been a long show. We don't normally go this long, but we did because it was good conversations all around. Before we do get out of here, make sure to follow the show at tactical_crouch and make sure to follow twitch.tv/KickedTripod, where we stream the shows every week. We do our best to let everybody know on Twitter as soon as we've got a guest on, we've decided on a time, because Joe and Yiska are busy guys. So, we kind of, usually it fluctuates between Tuesdays and Wednesdays most weeks. So make sure to follow us on Twitter there, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/KickedTripod as well. But besides that, we need to thank our amazing guest, who not only brought the spice, the curry spice, but brought some really great analysis as well. Curryshot, shout-outs, anything you want to say, where can people find you, all that good stuff?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. It was a bunch of fun. You can follow me at Curryshot TV on Twitch, Twitter, basically any social media. Make sure to watch our next match versus Gladiators Legion next week on Monday. And then Philadelphia Fusion the week after that, where we look to clinch out first place in our group. So we're already there, so we just need to win these 2 matches.
Nice. Well, good luck. I'll be cheering for you.
Best of luck.
Joe, what about you, man? What do you have going on this week?
What do I have going on? I just kind of skimmed through some of Winston's lab, their statistic base, and found some interesting little tidbits. So go check that out on Esports Heaven and on my Twitter. Some kind of interesting little things that you might not necessarily expect. Some style differences that were at least surprising to me. But my smooth brain might not be as big as yours. So maybe you figured it out. Videos probably coming. Maybe do a little bit more analysis. Got to study up.
Naked videos.
There's that Patreon. Just saying. If you find it, you get that private Snapchat. Just saying.
$50 plus a month.
50.
Diamond, platinum,
Joe,
Volamel.
Joe, looks like you already have a Patreon subscriber with Kicked for that right there.
I would
He's
funnel.
$50
I would
He's
follow.
the biggest
funnel
D,
every donation and sub for Tactical Crouch I would funnel into your Patreon
Beautiful.
just for nudes.
I heard Joe films dogs in his furry costume. Confirm, deny?
Can confirm.
Makes sense. Makes
Big
sense.
confirm.
All right. Well, the end of the show took a weird turn.
Would you like a weirder turn?
I was like,
Answer,
wait,
answer
wait, Atlas
carefully.
here. Okay, okay.
Answer carefully.
No.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. I'm protected. Let's go.
That's the emote. That's the emote.
Okay.
That's the emote. Yiska's emote.
Yep, you're right. Okay.
You know what? Actually, yeah. I would sub for that emote.
Give us the juice.
Yeah.
Wait. What? Okay. Well, now it might not seem like the most appropriate time to give you the juice right now. Now when you're looking at me like that.
Yiska, what are you? What's coming up in your week?
I
buddy?
can just imagine now. I can just imagine whenever Yiska is like getting the juice, you can see it. He fucking puts his beanie over his head, puts his glasses, and he just sits there like,
Hit me.
"What is up, Reddit?"
The hilarious is
So spoiler
Very
alert,
fun
that's actually his Washington Justice main tank cosplay. So
Well done.
for the-
statistically the best tank in the league, boy.
I mean, I get it. It's just a joke. Settle down. Settle down a little bit. All
If we
right.
ever do a show like this, I'm gonna come at you back with something else, Yiska. I gotta match this.
All right.
All right.
All right.
We'll definitely do it
There we
again for sure. I could have said Florida Mayhem made tank, but I just,
Wait, I shouldn't be laughing.
No.
yeah,
How
you're
could you do this?
pissed.
I am a
This
guest
is where
on
you
the
get
show.
to storm. Yep,
You
disrespectful.
should get a beanie, dude. Protect yourself.
Yiska, what do you have going on for you, man? What's coming up this week?
I got bumps, boy. Yeah, there's some stuff that I'm going to release this week. I will start thinking it over up again. As I said over the podcast, I sort of messed up the production, but yeah, that's what's happening in the unemployed esports life.
I can't take you seriously with that.
The masked esports analysis, except that he has the most recognizable German accent of all time. So it doesn't help him at all. As for me, I'm doing a lot more streaming here at twitch.tv/KickedTripod, so make sure to follow there. Playing everything. I actually did my Overwatch placements. That was a ton of fun. One person in our party listens to the show and be like, "Are you the KickedTripod? You do the show with Joe or Volamel and Yiska." I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, yeah, I'm also on the show. Like I'm a person." So like, no, like Joe, they're so smart. If you want to make me just feel great about myself, talk about how
Just talk about everybody around me.
talk
and
about
just
how
avoid.
smart
Yeah, yeah.
everybody is on the show except for me. Makes me feel good.
Nice.
I don't even care because your content sucks, guy. So, but besides that, yeah. So make sure
That
to
guy
follow
needs
me.
a beanie.
Follow me everywhere at KickedTripod, and make sure to. Here's the thing. We are 6 subscribers away on Twitch from being able to unlock all the emotes as an affiliate and get Yiska emotes and Joe emotes. I screenshotted Yiska with the beanie on his head. That's going to be his
my.
emote.
Can that be like KT blind, and then obviously probably mine will just be like KT gun?
It would either be KT blind or KT Houston fan.
I mean, beautiful.
Same thing.
I did play Apex with you, so it could also be KT aim.
Oh.
I missed
Both
it.
have
So
beak
hold
here.
on, I missed it. I was reading chat. What'd you say?
I said like the beanie over the head thing could also be KT aim based on me seeing you play Apex.
Yo, here's the thing, dude. I out damage you every time, man.
Yeah, you do.
I out damage you every time. I don't even know what it is. Not only do I out damage him, I'm in a fight and like Yiska's still looting in the middle of a cornfield with like
You guys have to understand, like, Tripod only drops at bunker, and he knows that thing like the back of his pocket. It's like it's unreal. He knows all the angles and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not a bunker pleb.
Hold on. We got
more breaking news.
another breaking news.
What now? We're trying to close the show. What?
Oh my!
What the
God
breaking
sending me
news?
Yo!
So Boston Uprising, in an attempt to just completely sabotage their season, has let go Note.
Yo!
He's got to be going somewhere though.
He's going to Dallas Fuel.
He's going to Dallas Fuel.
He's going
Dude,
to
this
Dallas
was in the
Fuel.
works for a while.
As a player or coach. I'm just kidding. He's as that
Oh,
role
I was like,
coach.
what?
Yo, and Baby Bay to Atlanta Reign? Oh, it's going on, dude.
What the
What the? What?
Okay, it's going on, boy.
Oh no. Okay.
So, So the Boston Valiant thing could have been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They sell Note. They get Persia. They like what other players are like possible that come in or whatever. But there's so much turnover in their team. Like, are they rebuilding mid-season? That is nuts, dude. Like, to be fair, they probably made an Overwatch League grand final winning in those transitions. I think like the buyouts, like especially for Node, are reasonably high.
Big.
Oh, RCK joined point. Oh, they just straight up traded them.
RCK to Boston?
Yeah, they just straight up traded them.
Wow.
Ooh.
All right.
Yo, what is going on?
Oh man.
I think RCK is a nuts player, so
I think he's sick.
I think both teams benefit from this, honestly.
Yeah, but both teams do, definitely. I think the players as well, at least not too.
Yo, this.
Oh, that's actually insane.
This
What is
changes
happening?
a
Why
lot.
today? Literally.
That
like,
is crazy.
Well, they only have 2 days to get the stuff announced. before
I know,
the
but
season-
like
the stage starts.
why did it take till 2 days? Like, I don't know.
Yo, that is insane. But of course, it's very expected that we see a lot of trades
Yes.
simply because the visa process is so
Sure.
long.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, so either you get an academy player from NA,
Yeah.
or you get like
You start
someone
trading
from
people
Overwatch
around.
League. Yeah.
Mhm. I'm
Wow.
happy to see more trades. I'm actually kind of sad that we don't see that more in esports. Trades are fun. Trades are a lot more interesting than just like dropping
Wow.
a player and then picking somebody up and paying up the.
That
the
is
odds.
crazy.
Note to Dallas, RCK to Boston,
Baby Bay to Rain.
Baby Bay to Rain.
Why not Davin?
Or
Then again,
hardest.
maybe.
Or
hardest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oof.
We're gonna find out a lot more
Cliffhanger episode.
by next week. Hey, Boston Uprising, big fan, but you guys with all these, all these, like literally, they wait for the show. They have to just wait for the show. I didn't know Huck was such a big fan.
I think Monday, Tuesday are just like general esports news.
Maybe,
That's
yeah.
when
No.
people put them out.
Nope. They just they hate us.
We're just big important, and they spite us.
Yep, big important. That was actually the second name for this podcast. It was Tactical Crouch and then Big Important
Important.
Podcast. Would have been pretty good,
like that
actually.
one.
That's actually
Yeah, I
not
like that
that
one a
bad.
lot.
If it wasn't so not Overwatch related, then I'd be all about it. The Big Important Podcast. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Follow us on all the things. Subscribe for all the things. Donate for all the things.
Come on, guys, let's make KT Blind a thing.
And Huck is posting now with the Joker, and here we go. GIF. So nice. It's all right, man. He had a fun couple years as GM, so that's good. No, I'm just kidding. He's fine. He's gonna be fine, guys. It's a joke. Settle down, laugh once in a while. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. We're going to be right back after the music to thank you all and talk about other things.